The third deep dive on the infographic captured the phenomena of relational capacity. And this iceberg metaphor is all about better ways to capture how teachers create relationships with students by describing relational practices and using language developed for relational ways of thinking, looking, listening, and choosing action. Teaching is primarily a practice, learned through experience and well-rooted in context. Teachers learn from their experience and become better and better. Yet best practice, based on big data, is difficult for teachers to relate to because big data is gutted of real-life context and individual cases and needs. But I want to introduce the resource level of this metaphor. I want to talk about formative work, using street data or thick data to develop teachers and parents along with kids. It's about teachers and parents who put in the effort to learn from those experiences from kids. Not necessarily talented teachers and parents. Like Michael Fullen says, talent is overrated. Michael has been a Canadian leader in education over decades, and he recognizes that good teachers are good at their own development. Witnessing our own development activates our moral purpose to grow this relational capacity in students and even develop other teachers around us. And then those so-called bright light teachers multiply because they share their wisdom and excellence. The arrow pointing deeper on this infographic indicates that care can shift to a deeper commitment, compassion, to then move us to be curious enough to use attachment thinking and reframe those behavior instincts. In this way, we all begin to see how survival instincts and social instincts can get stuck in what we call misbehavior. Yet when we have an attachment view, we can see those three dynamics pretty clearly: relationships, emotions, and development. Attachment dynamics will show us how to change the stuck negative patterns that kids fall into positive patterns. And the next formative level is to move curiosity to courage. I'm advocating for a courageous shift, which many schools recognize as necessary, but only occurs effectively when it comes from the bottom up. Courage is called for to use street data or thick data, which is more detailed and context savvy, to personalize the patterns of influence this child or teen needs at this time, in this circumstance, with this adult. By knowing some details of the context a child or teen lives within, teachers are able to think out loud. I see you, I hear you, and I know what you need because we all have the same needs to thrive. There will be this indigenous quality of holism based on the realization that we all have the same needs to belong, be our authentic self, and become more yet. It is so true that a self-identity is interconnected to form a whole person. Data from the achievement of students in our school, which is thick data and context savvy, takes the whole child or teen into consideration. Holism avoids fragmenting kids' needs into categories. The individual self cannot be understood without their emotional, physical, intellectual, spiritual, and cultural identities intact. So let this sink in. We are the resource. Our teen is the resource. All the adults in this kid's life is resource enough. I am saying we need a critical mass of teachers and parents on board, but unfortunately, experts coming from outside the school context can only guess at the nuances of your complex school community, which is the phenomena. This is the melting and shifting us of relational capacity. And this is why, for example, professional development in schools can create trauma-informed teachers without a school culture infused with trauma awareness, trauma sensitivity, trauma integration, or trauma healing, because these are deeper levels of formative growth. Formative practices grow a depth and breadth of excellence among teachers. We start with developing our own relational capacities, like adults putting on their oxygen mask first during an aircraft emergency. And then we are well equipped to assist our kids. This emotion-focused approach is formative practice. So I need to give you 1, 2, 3 of personal resources, attachment resources, and professional resources. Okay, so here is the 1, 2, 3 of personal resourcing. 1, take a screenshot of your personal relational capacity. Ask yourself, do my closest relationships provide the protection and connection I need for my own emotional stability? What about connection with my colleagues, my work culture, my roles in life, access to nature, expressive arts, and my own creativity? 2, take a screenshot of your emotions. Ask yourself, do my emotions become feelings? Can I identify feelings in moments when I am busy and rushed, as well as when I'm calm, connected, and creative? Or do strong emotions overwhelm my ability to feel? Because emotions can become worry patterns to hijack your energy and self-care. And 3, take a screenshot of your interoception. Do a body scan. Ask yourself, does my body feel healthy? Where do I feel the energy and pulse of my life? And where does my body feel tight, cramped, and painful? Pay attention to how much time you spend sitting, how much movement you get, what kind of movement your body needs. Are you eating good food? When and where do you seem to lack energy? And does movement and nutrition boost your energy? Got it? The 1, 2, 3 is improved awareness of my relationships, my emotions, and my body. This not only helps me, but it also builds my capacity to notice these in children and teens. Now, here is the 1, 2, 3 of attachment resources in mega complexes. Do you know about these? The first one is the preschooler complex. This complex is made worse by parents who fail to recognize that to preschoolers, everything is a big deal. With preschoolers, only one thing can be in view at a time, like a horse with blinders. The preschooler's life is all play and no work. So they are all about exploring and expressing, but not task completion. Take a look at Deborah McNamara's book, Rest, Play, Grow, because it details great ways to understand preschoolers and bring out the best in preschoolers without battling their tantrum. 2, separation complex. This complex is made worse by adults who fail to recognize that too much separation triggers an alarm response in children and teens. When we can reduce disconnection at school by emphasizing the cascading network of caring adults in the school, plus ways to stay connected to friends and family when kids are at school, then we also improve relational capacity among kids. Kids with chronic levels of disconnection have chronic high levels of anxiety and misbehavior too. And 3, the alpha complex. This is the dynamic that I spoke about in the part 2 video. We need a Goldilocks, just right use of authority, so kids are vulnerable enough to learn from us and seek protection from bullying and violence when that happens. But on the other hand, kids are confident enough for new friendships and growing into more responsibility. In Deborah's book, she speaks directly to adults with a behaviorist mindset when she says, alpha problems arise not from failed lessons, but from a lack of reliance on caretakers. So that is the 1, 2, 3 of the mega complexes. Realizing our attachment role in these are fantastic relational resources. But I can also offer professional resources by rewriting our classroom practices. I advocate retooling the classroom with relational patterns. And these are time-tested ways to talk, think, look at situations, listen to kids, and choose action in the moment to retool the classroom for mental wellness in emotional development. When whole schools adopt this emotion-focused approach, it's possible to reculture schools with 3 relational practices. I teach 3 emotion-focused practices: relational enhancement, developmental attunement, and emotional coherence. Relational enhancement is the collection of daily patterns to bridge whatever could divide you emotionally from this child or teen. Patterns ensure we always act to establish, safeguard, and maintain caring relations with kids. This way, schools provide a village of attachment, which is the natural habitat for children and teens. The second practice is developmental attunement, to come alongside and witness what this child or teen is living with and going through, to investigate their emotional coping by tuning into this child's knowledge, skills, and attitudes regarding attention, participation, and goal orientation. And by tuning into sensory sensitivities, safety sensitivities, and esteem sensitivities, which stall development. And the third practice is emotional coherence, to scaffold toward reflection, to support kids to think again for a second time or a third time, because we are all forced to wrestle with the dilemmas of life. Children and teens need a sense of coherence to make life more comprehensible, manageable, and meaningful. This practice creates congruence between a kid's feelings and thoughts, which are the roots of their integrity and authenticity. This is so important since mismanaged emotions are the superhighway to disease and distress. This emotion-focused approach is sustainable simply because it doesn't call for expensive materials or extra resources. This approach is resourced by, and likewise resources us, the adults in charge. The teacher or parent is the resource. The resource lives in us. This is system thinking on a whole school or whole district scale. And when the resource is internalized to each adult, system sensing is active, just like a body scan. System sensing is knowing where this emotion-focused approach is alive and energized, as well as where the system feels cramped and disconnected. There's always far too much to include in each of these 10-minute deep dives, but you can find all of the infographic materials and more on WolfeWisdom.ca. Emotional development, I am passionate about this topic.